All right, all right. Hey, everybody. I'm Dylan at Rabbit GPS here. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time out of your day to spend a little time hanging out with us. Welcome to the 2026 Spring Shakeout. Our team has been pretty hard at work over the last couple of months, creating some new features or revamping some slightly older features. And we wanted to take a little bit of time to run you through some of these developments in real time. Before I officially get rolling here, I just wanted to say that we're going to run through a couple of demos while we talk about some of these live features in real time. During the presentation, my colleague Kevin is going to be sitting in the comments, so feel free to post any questions you might have in there, and he'll do his best to answer them. We'll also have some time at the very end to take a look at some of those comments that were plugged in there and address them in real time as well. One last thing to mention is that the recording of this should be up on YouTube within the next day or so. So what we're going to be covering today are the offline maps feature, which allows you to confidently record and navigate anywhere in the world, regardless of your connectivity. We're going to talk about new share cards, which will allow you to share your trips and routes with a little bit of a custom twist on style. We're also going to talk about the community photos layer for more route planning context based on things that people are actually doing in the areas that you're interested in. And then we're going to talk a little bit about two features that help you sort of organize and share routes. These are going to be events and collections. So let's talk about offline maps first. Give me 1 second here, and I'm going to share my phone screen over, and we will talk about it. Give me one moment. Alrighty. So we are looking at the home page of my Riva GPS account. And offline ability, the ability to take routes and download them to your phone for offline use has actually been a mainstay of the Riva GPS app for quite a while. First of all, let's show you how to download individual routes, which is still accessible with this new offline maps feature that I'll show for you shortly. If I head into my library by tapping where it says library at the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, head into my routes tab, which you'll notice at the very top of my screen. And let's scroll down a little bit and say, ooh, this OMTM modified 33 route looks pretty cool. Let me tap to see it in full view. So I'm thinking about doing this route this weekend. One of the things about it is, for me, it's relatively long. It's going to take me a little while to do. And it does take me outside of cell reception periodically. If I want to make sure that I have access to this route, the map, and the turn-by-turn directions, what I would do is tap Save at the bottom of the screen, and then tap where it says Download for Offline. Just underneath the title, you'll see a little Download Pending icon going here, and this route is currently downloading to my phone for offline use. You can see that the process is already done. What I will quickly say before we sort of depart from offline routes is the whole downloading process has been updated to move a lot faster. It used to take a little bit longer, but you really don't have to wait too long for that to go down. When I'm actually ready to ride, if I hit the back button in the upper left, head to my Collections tab in the upper right-hand corner, and I go to my Offline tab, I can see that route that I downloaded earlier, currently sitting in my Offline tab, which means that I can navigate it regardless of cell reception, Wi-Fi connection, all that good stuff. But if you're going to do a lot of routes, you can imagine that downloading routes individually for offline use can be a little laborious and take a little bit of time. Luckily, we have this new feature known as Offline Maps, which allows you to download an entire region for offline use. When you download an entire region for offline use, any route that you have in your library that is included within that region will be automatically downloaded to your phone, stored there locally, and accessible even if you don't have cell reception Wi-Fi. So let's talk about how to actually download an offline map. I'm going to head to the More page, which you can get to in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Tap More. And then about midway from the top, you'll see it says Offline Maps. So I'm going to tap that. And I'm going to tap where it says New Offline Map. All right. So right now, this map is focusing over my current location. And you can see that there's this nice bounding box that shows me sort of the scope of the portion of the map that I'm going to download for offline use. I can interact with this, so I can expand, I can zoom in to limit the size of this download, or I can expand to cover a little bit more ground. What I'm going to do here is sort of try to cover most of Oregon, which is typically where I do a lot of my riding here. So now that I've sort of set the bounding box of the area that I want to download my map for, if you look towards the bottom, you'll see it's telling you how big the map size is. Just underneath that though, it's telling you what it actually includes. It includes the Ride with GPS cycle map, which is like the default map for offline map types. We don't currently offer anything other than the Ride with GPS cycle map type for offline, but we're looking into doing that at some point. And it also includes the global heat map for this area that we're downloading. Just underneath that, you're going to see that I have 91 routes in my library that are now going to be included within this offline download. This looks good to me, so I'm going to tap where it says download in the lower right hand corner. And now we're taken back to our offline map screen where we can see the progress of this download. You'll notice before when I did just a download for one specific route that it was really, really fast, but right now this entire map of Oregon is downloading pretty quickly. You can see that it's already finished, and one thing I want to say before we move on, I've mentioned a couple different times that when you download routes or a map for offline use, that allows you to navigate the route even if you don't have cell reception and Wi-Fi connection. Downloading offline maps also allows you to ensure that you can record rides and see your map with clarity as you go along. And the other thing that's really nice about this is if you have a map or routes downloaded to your phone for offline use, you can navigate them with your phone in airplane mode. Airplane mode sort of puts a wall up between your phone and attempts to connect to cell network or a Wi-Fi connection, which can use a lot of battery, but airplane mode up, offline maps will drastically extend the battery life of your phone while using our app. My little anecdote for this is I do a lot of bike packing, and if I do offline maps, navigate with airplane mode, I can usually get anywhere between like 8 and 10 hours of navigation on a single battery charge. So it makes a lot of difference in terms of how much battery gets used up. So now that we have this map downloaded, let me tap it one more time. And when you're taken to like the map download screen, you have a couple of other options. We can edit map, which will allow me to reset the bounding box to cover a different area or more area, or less for that matter. I can rename it. I can hit update. This is if I wanted to make sure that I had the most up-to-date map data right before leaving the door, but I will say that we do continually update maps even if you've downloaded them for offline use. And then underneath that, you can see a list of all of the routes that I have that are included with this offline map download. And there's 91 of them, so this is covering quite a bit of ground and makes it so that I don't have to download individually 91 different routes, which is great. So I'm gonna hit the back button. I'm gonna hit back one more time. And one last thing I wanted to show you before we move on to the next feature is if we head back to my library, if you look at my offline tab where we were before, you can also see that the 91 routes that are included within that map download appear here as well. All right. On to the, so real quickly, just to wrap that up, offline maps, great feature if you want to make sure that any route included within your route library or anywhere, any route that's sort of interest in the areas you typically ride, offline maps allows you to access them even if you don't have cell data, Wi-Fi, all that stuff. The next thing I wanted to take us to is the new share card. Share cards can be generated for either rides or routes, activity recordings or planned routes. And it's a great way to sort of personalize and customize the way in which these activities are shared out to other people. So I'm in my activities tab in my route library, and I'm going to tap this top recording that I have here that says AJ. This is a ride I did not too long ago with a buddy of mine named AJ. And you can see I took a couple of photos here. And let's say I want to share this recording with somebody else just to show them what I did and sort of brag a little bit. Nothing wrong with that. I'm going to tap the share button in the lower lower left-hand corner of the screen. And that pulls up a couple of options. So there's a couple different templates for sharing my route out. This first one, and I will just call out quickly that you can see one of the photos I took is automatically applied to the background here. It shows the route map, it shows a little bit of the metrics associated with this recording, and it shows the elevation profile down below. If I swipe to the left, that shows you the next template we have, which actually has a photo of my buddy AJ standing right in front of Mount Hood. All of those same metrics are there, and the elevation profile down below is also visible. One of the cool things to mention about this share card is it's oriented vertically, which makes sharing over to social media platforms a lot more streamlined and ensures that it looks just as good when you do share it out. Underneath that share card, you'll see that there's a couple of different palette options to choose from. I'll select that black one, and here, let me actually switch to this other one so you can see it. If I choose the black option, that shows you this nice topo overlay. You can also do this nice orange fade or this nice blue fade. The other thing I can do is there's a little photo icon to the right. If I tap that, that opens up all the photos that I took during this recording and allows me to plug in a different photo in its place. If I didn't take any photos during my recording, or maybe I just wanted to include one from my camera roll, you have the option to choose photo from camera roll. That'll open up the photos of your phone and allow you to select the one of interest. I'll choose this little tree one there, and done. All right, and you can see it applied. So from here, I can hit the copy option, which copies this share card to my clipboard so I can paste it and share it over with anybody else. I can hit save to permanently save it to my camera roll. Hit copy link to copy the link to my clipboard and paste that so somebody else can tap or click it and access my share card. Or I can just hit that share option, which will open up the contacts list of my phone and allow me to quickly and easily text this out or email it to anybody else that I want to know about it. So that's our share card. Awesome way to personalize and customize the way that your trip looks when you share it out to other folks. So real quick here, let me just switch back to the main screen, and I'm going to take us away from the mobile app for a brief moment and head to the website. Give me one moment to pull this up here. All right. Okay. So now our view is showing you the default landing dashboard of my account on the RideWithGPS website. And the next feature I want to run you through is the community photos layer. And to do this, I'm going to head to the route planner, which you'll access by hitting route planner at the top of the screen. All right, and it's focusing over my current location, which is great. But I actually have a plan to create a route in a more rural area. Specifically, I'm going to go to Carson, Washington, which is usually where I like to do a lot of bike packing, gravel riding, that sort of stuff. Now, some of you may know that we have a Google Street View feature on our mapping services. So if I zoom in on this area that I'm kind of interested in riding in, and I click on this little orange person icon, drag it onto the map, anywhere with available Street View highlights in this blue color, and if I let go, I get a nice up-close view of the world as it actually exists. Which is really nice if I'm trying to get more context in the areas that I'm planning. Let me hit this little back button to return. However, Google Street View is not available in all areas. I believe Google used like a fleet of Priuses to take a lot of those photos. So if a Prius can't go there, chances are we don't have available Street View. But what happens if you need a little bit more context in the areas you're planning? Maybe you want to see what the view is like. Maybe you want to see what road quality is like in a particular area. If you don't have Street View, one option is to use the community photos overlay. So let me hit this drop down menu where it says layers, and I'm going to turn on community photos. All right, so with that turned on, you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of these blue dots popping up all over the place. So community photos are pretty much exactly what they sound like. We are sourcing public photos from actual RideWithGPS users, and they're geotagged in the specific location that they were taken. So you can see how things actually look when you head out into the field, even if something like Street View isn't available. So let me zoom in a little bit. This is one of the areas that I really like to ride a lot. I think I've been through this road, but I'm not totally sure if I have or if I want to use it. If I hover over this little blue dot, I can see a little preview of the photo that exists there. If I click that blue dot, I have an even better option, a more up-close view of that specific road or trail. And if I click this, then I get to see that in like full view. Let me give you another option that has just a couple more photos to see. Okay, this is a good one. So in this specific area, there's like a little roll of photos that I can actually look at. Which again, this tells me like a couple of interesting bits of information. The first being that, wow, this is an amazing view. I probably do want to include this portion of trail in any route that I create through here. But the other thing it does is it can give me a better sense of like what things are actually going to look like when I plan on riding. If we head back to this photo here, you can see that this looks to me to be hard packed dirt with a little bit of gravel peppered on top, which is honestly absolutely the type of riding that I like to do. So yeah, that tells me that this would be a really great option in creating a route through here. So yeah, community photos, great way to get more context in the areas you're planning, see what the locals are calling out, and that way you can make a decision whether or not you want to include it in your own route planning. Next, I would like to talk about two features that I sort of consider to be like brother and sister to one another. Let me head back to my main dashboard. And we're going to talk about events and collections. Both events and collections allow you to sort of like group routes together in an easily shareable format that makes it super simple for people to see exactly what you're trying to share. But there's sort of a use case for one and a use case for another. So let's talk about events first. Events are really, really great options for clubs, for like organized group rides, or for anybody who's looking to put on like a one-day or a multi-day event, that sort of thing. I think events work best if you have like a specific duration of time in mind. Maybe, for example, you're going to be doing a 3-day trip and you want to include all the routes for those 3 days in one little bucket so that you can easily share it out to people who are coming along. That's where I think events do best. To create an event, you're going to click on the events option on the left-hand side of your dashboard. You can see some events that I've joined that are coming up relatively soon, but I'm going to create my own event, and I'll do this by clicking Create Event. So that takes us to sort of the event planning page. You're going to give it a title. So I think I said I was going to do a multi-day tour. This will be my Portland to Eugene trip. If this was just a one-day event, you could toggle this off and make it just a one-day event. So have it start on 4/22, end on 4/22. But this is going to be a multi-day for me. So if I head here, I'm going to have this go all the way through until Friday the 24th. And I'll have it end at, we'll say 3 p.m., which is roughly 3 days from when it started. All right, great. So have that set up. For meetup locations, you can plug in a specific point where you want everybody to meet up. I'm going to plug in the address of my local gym. Oops. Spelling correctly is always useful, but even still, we'll probably find what you're looking for anyway. You can add a little description down below. Great scenic 3-day tour. Tour from Portland to Eugene. I can select a visibility. This should be public, private, friends only. I'm going to show you how to share an event in a little bit, but just know that even if you have your event set to private, you can generate a special share link, and anybody who receives that link will be able to see the event and the included routes, even if it's still private. But I'll leave this one as public just for fun. And then you have this little plus option down below, which allows you to add the routes that you're going to include in this event. When I click this plus sign, this basically gives me a direct line into my route library, so I can pull in existing work without actually leaving my event creation. I'm going to select these three, part 1, 2, and 3, Portland to Eugene, and I'm going to hit done. So now these 3 routes are loaded in, and I click Create Event. All right, so that takes us to the actual event page. So the first thing I want to call out here is that when you create an event that has multiple routes in it, you're going to see this lovely interactive color-coded map automatically generated for you. As I mentioned earlier, it's color-coded, so you can see where each individual portion of this route starts and ends. If I hover over it, where it's listed on the map, I can see that one individual route highlight. Over here on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the list view of all of these routes. So if I hover over that first one, you can see it highlight in blue on the left, and also appears specifically highlighted on the map on the right, which is great. If I click where the map is, or click on the map where this first route is listed, we zoom into that one specific segment. It shows me some metrics for it down below, and I also get to see the elevation profile. I can do this for each individual route if I want to, or I can hit this Show All option to see everything back on that same map all over again. One thing I did want to call out is if I click to view one specific route within the event, you do have the option to send to device. So If you're like a Garmin user, a Wahoo user, and you want to send a specific route over to your device, you can do that quickly and easily from here. And then if we head to the top of the screen, let me show you how to share events first. So I have this awesome event. I want to share it with other people who are going to be doing this tour with me to prevent sort of some chaos, to make like the coordination of this trip a lot simpler and easier. If I hit this share event button, you have a couple of share options. Typically what people are going to do most is just copy this link. Hit that copy link option. That allows you to paste it into an email or text, and anybody who receives that link will be able to view the routes and RSVP to it. You can also search for users within Ride with GPS using their screen name or their email address. And you can also share directly to social media if that's something that you want to do. When the recipient gets that link and they click on it, the view is going to look exactly like what I'm showing you here. But what they're going to do is hit the Join Event option. And that officially RSVPs them to the event, which is useful for a variety of reasons. I'll show you some of this in a little bit later, but one of the other things that's really nice about events is people RSVPing allow you to manage participants a little bit better. You can see who actually is attending this event. That way, if like one of your buddies hasn't RSVP'd, you're like, hey, you don't have the routes yet, you're gonna wanna RSVP to this, and you'll be able to see when they actually do it. In the upper right-hand corner of my event screen here, there's this little More option. And if you click More, you can go to Manage Participants. And this will show you anybody who's RSVP'd to the event. You can see I'm the only one who's RSVP'd so far. Let's say I didn't actually want me to be doing this event. I could hit this trash can icon to remove me from access to this event, which is another nice way to manage participation a little bit more. And then lastly, I wanted to call out that you can always edit your event after it's been created. If you hit this little pencil icon in the upper right-hand corner, this takes you back to sort of like an editing screen for your event. Maybe I'm going to update the description. We might hang out in Albany for an extra day. I'll say that, and maybe I also want to change the ordering of some of the routes. Maybe I want to start with 3 up top and work my way down. If I drag 3 to the top, keep moving these around, I've changed the order. All right. Now, one of the coolest parts about this, and this is something that we've been working on over this last winter, is if I hit save, I get an option to notify any people who've joined as participants. So I can say, added to description, and plugged in some extra POI to day 2. From here, if I hit save and send updates, anybody who has RSVP'd to this event will get a push notification, an email address, and a little bell notification at the upper right-hand corner of their Ride with GPS account, telling them what specific edit I made using what I plugged into that little notes field earlier. So again, events, really wonderful way to sort of ensure that their chaos is limited, that people that you are going to be riding with have a pretty clear idea of what's going on, and they can interact with it, they can get themselves the routes when they actually need it. One last thing before I show you collections, let me head back to my dashboard, hitting that little Ride with GPS icon in the upper left. And on my home screen, you can see that my event is listed right there. So every time I log into my Ride with GPS account, I will see it there, which is a great reminder that it's upcoming and I have something to pay attention to. Within the Ride with GPS app, on the home screen, I'm also going to see that event shown right at the home screen, just underneath the last 30 days of recording stats listed there. So it's a really great way to cover all your bases and make sure nobody forgets about something important that's going on. Very last thing for events, if I go to my calendar on the left-hand side of my screen, I can see the event that I RSVP to listed right in here, so I can see that it's upcoming and how long it goes for. All right, so that's events. Now I want to talk about collections. Collections for me personally tends to be how I organize all of my routes. I think of collections as like a foldering system within my route library, within my Ride with GPS account. Collections I will typically use when I don't have a specific time frame that I'm doing something in. And maybe I just want to like add a grouping of routes together by geography. So maybe I could say like, these are the most scenic routes in Portland, Oregon. Or I can even group them together by riding style. I can say, here are all of the best Portland area gravel routes. And that's actually what I'm going to do right here. So if I head to collections over on the left-hand side of my screen, you can see all of the collections that I've created in the past, but I want to make a new collection. And to do this, I hit new collection. I'm going to give it a name, Portland gravel routes. I'll write a description, best gravel routes in Portland. An exclamation point because I'm extra excited. I can add an image banner. Let me click here. Portland Grav. That's a nice appropriate photo. Let's hit open. And that will be added as my banner image. Visibility, I can select public, private, friends only. Similarly to events, if I share my collection out with somebody else, they're going to be able to see it and follow it, even if some of the routes included within it are private, but I'll make this public. Show map is turned on by default. I'd recommend leaving that, and you'll see why in just a second. So all this looks good. I'm going to hit Save Collection. Okay, this takes me to the collection page. You can see my lovely banner image being displayed up top, giving me lots of encouragement to do this. But now I need to actually go in and add a couple routes. You can do that by hitting the plus sign where it says Add Items. This too is a direct line into your route library, so we can pull in existing work. I have these Portland gravel routes I'm going to include. I'll select all three, add to collection. And just like with events, we have this wonderful interactive color-coded map that allows me to see each individual route or everything overlaid on top of one another. As I've said, it is color-coded, so you can see what portions of the route are shared with one another and where they are different. If I hover over each one of these, you can see that highlight on the map. Just like before, we have a little send to device option. So if I want to send this over to my external GPS device, I can do that directly from the collections page. Oops, let me stop it here. And yeah, the side-by-side layout I just find to be a very easy way for everybody to sort of see everything all at once and access what they want there. From here, if I wanted to share this, it's pretty much like sharing an event. You hit this little share option. Copy link is typically what you want to do. Send that over to people that you want to see it, and they'll be able to actually save your collection to their account and access it from their collections tab. One really cool feature about collections is that you can actually add other Ride with GPS users as collaborators, as editors. So if I plug in the name or email address of another Ride with GPS user, they'll get an invitation to edit it, so we can both work on creating a collection together. But I will always be listed as the owner because I am the creator of this. And then down below you have the option to select visibility, public, private, friends only, as I mentioned earlier. I'll leave it as public, and there we go. So let me hit that little X. And then from the more option, you have a couple of different options here. You can go through and edit collection. This is a lot like what we did earlier with events. And that allows me to change the ordering of things. There isn't sort of a messaging feature the way that events are, but for the purposes of how I think of using collections, it's not entirely necessary to make that happen. So hit save, and there we go. My ordering preference is now honored, and pretty much everything else looks exactly the same. So again, collections as opposed to events, I think collections are probably a better option if you don't have a specific time frame in place. But if you're someone who likes to keep their routes organized on their account so they don't really have to sift through too much when it's time to actually go and find something to use, collections is a really, really wonderful way to personalize and sort of separate everything out into buckets based on your own criteria. All right, let me head back to my main screen here. And let me head back to this main page so you can see me. So quick recap, offline maps. Great way to download an entire region of routes that you're interested in riding, so you don't have to download them individually. This also ensures that you're going to be able to ride or record your activity and navigate things in the middle of nowhere without cell reception or Wi-Fi connection. New share card, great way to personalize your sharing of your activities or routes so that other people can see like a nice, aesthetically pleasing version of your recordings that are easy and seamless to share to social media. Community photos layer, rely on the community's hard work to get more context on the areas you're interested in planning. Events, great way to organize and share routes with your crew, limit all of that planning chaos and make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then collections are an absolutely wonderful way to sort of create little buckets or a foldering system of different routes on your account that all have sort of similar properties like geography or even riding style together. All right, so we're right about to go into our Q&A portion, so I'm going to keep an eye out for questions from Kevin popping up here. While I'm waiting for questions from Kevin, you are welcome to plug some more questions into the comments, and we'll see if we can get to some of those while we're working on it here. And while I'm waiting for questions from Kevin, real fast, I want to move over to one last slide that I have here. So after today's webinar, if you have any follow-up questions, concerns that we don't address during the Q&A that's about to happen, you can always email info@ridewithgps.com. That'll take you right to our support team, who are super awesome at getting questions, technical or not, answered in a time-honored fashion. And then just underneath that, we offer weekly scheduled webinars that are small group webinars that anybody can attend. I think we cover stuff like intro to the mobile app and more advanced route planning and editing stuff. If that's something you're interested in, you can head to our Calendly page, view our schedule, and reserve a spot. All right, I got a couple of questions from Kevin. Let me take a look at this. So show drag and drop route ordering when editing a collection. All right, let me get my screen shared back over here. Okay, so let me head into a collection. I'll do Portland gravel routes. So I can change the ordering of my routes quickly and easily from within the collection. I just need to hit, more, edit collection, scroll down below, and that allows me to sort of drag, move stuff around so it's reordered in the way that I actually want. Once I have the ordering the way that I'd like it, just hit save. And now that ordering is honored and reflected within my collection. All right, next question. Splitting long routes with points of interest. Ooh, nice. All right, so these are features that we've had for a little bit here. Let me see if I can find a good route to use as an example. So I'm going to do this in my route planner. Head to route planner. For those of you who haven't used this too much, one really awesome feature that comes included with a premium subscription is this little import tool. If you click the import tool, this is a direct line into your route library, so you can pull in existing work without leaving your route planner. I've mentioned this a couple of times with other feature sets that we have here, and this is something that I really like to do just because I don't like to be distracted while I'm working on something hard. I like to have it all in one place, and this allows me to do just that. Here, let me see if I have a section of the Baja Divide in here. I used to have one. I'll just pull in a kind of a long route to use as an example real fast. I'll actually pull in these three. That way I can show you combining and splitting. All right, so I have these three selected, add to planner. Okay, so this isn't exactly the question that was asked, but I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to show you anyway. I pulled in 3 different routes into my route planner. When you have multiple items in your route planner at once, you'll see your active route. This is like the one that you're currently working on, shown on the screen in red, highlighted on the left-hand side in blue. And then you have like these green dots, and you'll notice that there are these faint gray lines that are showing the other portions of route, which are the sections that are inactive currently. If I hover over where these are listed on the left-hand side of the screen, I can see them highlight in blue, so I can see them a little bit better. And when you have multiple items in your route planner at once, you're going to see these green dots there, which is how you can quickly and easily combine the portions together. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to connect first section with section 2 by clicking that green dot. And as you can see, those 2 portions are now combined. And I'm going to do the same thing with this last segment. hit that green dot, and now I have one long continuous route, which is great. But now, let's say I want to split this up into 30-mile segments. If you have a long route and you're going to split it into smaller sections, I would highly recommend that you save as you go. There's a couple of ways to do this. One way is to hit the split route tool on the right-hand side. By the way, the split route tool is available with a premium subscription that I'm showing you. Hit split route. Either from the route line or from the elevation profile, you'll click to perform your first split. So I'm wanting to split at mile 30. I want it to be in like 30-mile segments. So I click. It kind of looks like I deleted the second half of my route, but I've split it into 2 sections. My active route on the screen right now is the first 30 miles. You'll see that listed over here on the left-hand side. Underneath is the last 120 miles, which is everything after the section that I split. I want to save as I go, so I hit save. This will be big route day 1. Save. That saves that section to my route library, but I still have more work to do. I have subsequent splits to perform, and I need to save those as I go. So I hit this X. That allows me to stay in the route planner. Click the second unnamed portion of my route to make it active. Rinse and repeat. Instead of hitting the split route button, I'm going to use the right-click menu from the elevation profile. Right-click at 30 miles, and split route. And that does the same thing for me. So I have my next section of split, hit save, and this will be big route day 2. Save. Hit the X to stay in the route planner, make your inactive route active, rinse and repeat until you have this split all into individual segments. Once you have these all split up, that'd be a great time to add it to either an event or collection based on what you plan on doing and how you plan on sharing it out with other folks. The other question is, tell us a little bit about the different map styles that we offer, and talk about a little bit of why certain ones are useful and some of the properties available to each. So let's talk about this. I'm going to do this in the route planner as well. Head back to route planner. All right. I'm going to turn off my community photos for just a moment. I'll turn off unpaved cycling as well. This layers menu, when you have time, super fun to play with. A lot of great context tools for route planning that are available with the premium subscription. Community photos and highlights, though, are both included without paid subscription. So different map types. Right now, we're looking at the Portland, Oregon area. If y'all haven't figured it out, this is where I'm based. This is where the company is, but we have people all over the place. So right now, your map type menu is shown in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Right now, we're using the Ride with GPS Cycle map type, which is my personal favorite for route planning. It's not just because it's our own proprietary map type. The reason I like it is I think it does a very good job of contrasting between like roads and geography. It's easy for me to tell like where streets are versus where, you know, like something like a park would be located. The reason the reason why this is actually my favorite map type is if I zoom in closely, which you can do with the plus and minus buttons over here, you'll notice that there are these green lines all over the place. And that's how we call out bicycle infrastructure. Wherever we're seeing green lines is showing us that there is a bicycle path or protected bicycle lane or bike trail, which is really, really nice. If you do not know what the markings on the map are and you want to get a little bit more information, in the lower right-hand corner, there's a little map legend, and if you click this, you can see a breakdown of all of the markings on the map, so you get a little bit more context. I will tell you now, when I first started using this, I did not know what any of the markings meant. It didn't take me too long to sort of just remember this. If you continue to use this as you get started, you'll remember what all of this means. But we have a lot of different map types, each of which call out slightly different bits of information, and there's a few that I find particularly useful. So we'll call out a few. You can access the full menu by hitting this little drop-down caret, and you can see all of the different map types we offer. Let's do Google Map. I'll bet that everybody's probably seen this before. Usually Google's like sort of everybody's first introduction to route planning software. An unpopular opinion maybe, I don't really like the contrast of this map type very much, but one of the reasons I really like it is because of all of these place labels that pop up, calling out like local services in the area. The closer you zoom in, the more of these you'll end up seeing. I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of bike packing or multi-day touring, And the nature of that type of routing is you need to know where your resupply is. So using this Google Map type layer and these place labels, I can spot things like lodging. I can see things like, a bakery, park, grocery stores, restrooms even, and I can use things like points of interest to permanently call them out on my route or on my map so that when I switch to other map styles, they're still there. We also have Google Satellite, which shows you the world as it actually exists. This is a really useful map type if you're looking to just see, what things are actually going to look like in real life. But it's pretty hard to plot in. I don't often like plan in this too much because it's really hard to see the contrast between roads and geography. If you like satellite imagery and you want to use it to plan, Google Hybrid is a pretty good option. It highlights the streets a little bit better, shows all those place labels, a little bit easier to follow. Next one that I love is OSM Cycle. OSM Cycle does a really vibrant job of calling out like nationally recognized bicycle infrastructure. Where we're seeing these blue lines is calling out bike infrastructure like protected bike lanes, bike trails, bike paths. What we're seeing here in purple, and sometimes you'll also see that in red depending on where you are in the country, are calling out like nationally recognized cycling networks. This purple line we're looking at that says WV and heads all the way down. This is the Willamette Valley Cycling Highway, which is actually like sanctioned by the state of Oregon and very well marked for traveling. If you're ever in the Oregon area, I would highly recommend doing this. But this takes you all the way from Portland to Eugene using like farm roads, so it's super scenic. If I wanted to plot along this road and make sure that I'm following it exactly, OSM Cycle is a great map type to allow me to do that. So if you're looking for something, maybe you're out east in the US, you're looking for like the Erie Canal Trail or a rail trail, this would be a really awesome option to make sure that you're finding that information. And then the last one I'll demo for now, which may actually be my favorite map type, just behind Rabu GPS Cycle, is Esri Topo. This might not look at much at first glance, but the reason I really like it is because it shows hill shading, which gives me more of like a 3D map view in the areas that I'm planning. If you zoom in even closer, you can get a better sense of that hill shading, but now you can also see topography. I don't expect everybody here to feel super comfortable reading topography, but if you spend enough time staring at this, it becomes a lot easier and makes like seeking out climbing or avoiding it a lot easier because you have more of a 3D map view. Everybody has their own favorite map type. Feel free to play around, find which one works best for you. You can always hop back and forth depending on what you're looking for. All right, we got one more question. Let's see, can you show how to delete a little piece of a route and maybe plan a detour? Absolutely. So let me quickly create a route actually, let me pull in an existing route using our import tool. I'll hit import in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. I'm going to pull in the Click Attack County Ramble. Here we go. Add to planner. And now I have this loop route loaded in here. Let's say that this route is perfect in all ways, except right here on my route, right where I'm putting my cursor, you can see that the route line turns in left, heads along this unpaved road, crosses a river, and then heads along the Klickitat River Trail. Let's say that that's great, but I actually want to use some of the side streets in this grid area here, and then connect just past that river. So your elevation profile is interactive. So if I move my cursor along the elevation profile, you can see that little yellow dot moving along as well, which you can think of as the person actually riding the route. Now, just before the point that I plan on leaving my original route, I'm going to click and I'm going to hold down. I'm going to drag along to highlight the portion of the route that I plan on changing. Okay, once I've selected this highlighted block, you can see this appearing in like a faint gray color at the bottom of the screen, the elevation profile. When I let go, we zoom in a little bit, we show the section that I highlighted in blue here, and some of my selection tools automatically appear. With Premium, you get access to this Delete Selection tool. And when I click this, it's just going to remove the highlighted portion of my route and leave everything else exactly the same. So I'm going to click it, and oh no, it kind of looks like I just deleted the entire second half of my route, but it's still there, I promise. we've split the route into two individual segments. We have the first segment, the active route, which is leading up to the portion I deleted. You'll see that green dot up top, and you'll see this faint gray line, which is the second portion of my route, everything after the section I deleted. If you look on the left-hand side of my route planner, you can see that I now have two routes loaded in here instead of one. And if I hover over the inactive route, it highlights on the screen in blue so I can see it a little bit better. And again, that green dot is always going to appear when you have multiple items loaded in, and that's ultimately how you join things back together. So what I'm going to do is click along the alternate roads I want to use. I'm clicking as I go, just clicking along the roads that are interesting to me. I'm going to make it real zigzaggy here. Okay, and now I'm getting close enough to that green dot. When I'm close enough, what I'm going to do is hover over that green dot. Let me zoom out just a little bit so you can see this. When I hover over it, it gives me a little blue connector preview of what the combined portion is going to look like. Once I click this green dot, everything's joined back together. First portion of my route is the same as it originally was. Second portion of my route is the same as it originally was, except now I've added in this little section in between here that was specific to my routing style and what I had in mind. Again, delete selection tool is a premium feature, probably the way that I end up editing routes most often if I want to change like a section in the middle of an existing route. Oh, and somebody also asked, can I show how to edit routes by clicking and dragging? Absolutely, let's do that. So let me clear my map. Here, pretend you don't see what I'm doing there. I'll cue this up in a second. Okay, so I'm going to create a real simple point-to-point route here, real fast. Okay, I'm going to have it start here. I'm going to click along some roads that I want to use, and let's see, as I click, my route line is created for me, connecting my clicks together. On the left-hand side of my screen, my cue sheet, my list of turn-by-turn directions is automatically generated as I plan. And let me take this all the way to the top of Rocky Butte. All right, so I have this wonderful existing route. Let's say that this looks great. I absolutely love it, except I actually want to depart my course about midway through and head to Mount Tabor. But I want to be really specific about this. I want to depart my course at this intersection, head to Mount Tabor, and then rejoin my route right here at this intersection. One thing I wanted to mention here is you might notice that there are these little white dots along my route line, and these are called control points. When you're building a route, each time you click, a little white control point will appear to show you where specifically you clicked as you were creating your route. The other thing they do is they help constrain the structure of your route so you can make very targeted click and drag edits and only focus on a particular segment. Pretend you don't see what I'm doing here. If you have existing control points that you want to remove, click this control point button, and clicking on existing control points will remove them. And I'm doing this for a reason. So I now have no control points on my route, and one of the ways you ultimately make changes to your route line is by clicking and dragging it into place if you want to use an alternate route. If I click the route line, and let me zoom in just a little bit more, and again, I only told you I wanted a tiny bit of this route to change. Click the route line, move it over. The route starts to highlight in black, which is giving me a preview of what this edit's gonna look like. And as you can see, a lot more of the northern portion of my route is changing than I necessarily wanted. So I'm gonna let go of my click. That edit is solidified. My cue sheet's updated accordingly, but that's not what I had in mind. I'm gonna hit the undo button in the upper right-hand corner. This will undo my most recent edit, take me back. So in order to make it so that only a tiny portion of my route changes, I need to strategically place control points. And someone once described using control points to me as thinking of them like brackets. If you have two control points on your route line, two brackets, the only thing that's going to change when you click and drag is just the section that's in between those two control points. So I have control point tool turned on, which means when I click, we'll add control points. And if I'm departing course at this intersection, I'm going to add my first control point just before I plan on leaving. There's my first control point, my first bracket. Now I'm going to add my second control point right after this intersection, which is where I plan on rejoining. So just after where I plan on rejoining. So now I have those two control points there, those two brackets. Now, when I click and drag my route line over, the only thing that changes is just what's in between those two control points. Everything outside of those two control points remains exactly the same. When I let go, that edit is solidified. We head to the top of Mount Tabor and continue on to the top of Rocky Butte. And my cue sheet, my list of turn-by-turn directions, is automatically generated as I plan. All right, we have another question in here. Say I have found a few routes from users that I'd like to merge and create my own. What's the easiest way to accomplish this? So I think, let's see. I think probably like the best, so the first thing that you're gonna wanna do, I think of like routes that other people create in terms of ownership. If you have a route that someone else made, it's not sitting in your route library, it's not on your account yet. So if you want to take that and sort of like save it for later, the first thing that you need to do is pin that route. And real fast, I'm going to take us into our Explore feature. This is our Explore feature at the top of the screen, is what you can use to search our existing publicly available route library, the largest publicly available bicycle route library in the world, for existing routes that meet a specific criteria in mind. I'm going to select something just for fun. Ooh, looks like we have a route created by our own Kevin Prentice, who's currently sitting in the comments. Let's say I want to save this for later by pinning it. So if I hit save and pin, this route is now added to the pin tab of my account. So this is now going to be accessible in both the website and in the app when I log into my account there. If I head back to my main screen and look at my main route collection here, you'll see that I have a pin tab. And if I click that, I can see that route that I just pinned listed up at the very, very top of my list. So from here, if I wanted to, I could click it, hit more, open in Route Planner, so I can start making edits and changes to it. But in order to like connect routes together, which I sort of did that demo earlier of how to combine routes together, you need to have those routes actually saved to your route library first. And because this was made by somebody else, it's not going to appear in my route library, even though I pinned it. Again, pinning is like a great way to save the route for use later on. But now I'm ready to actually do something with this route. One of the options that I have here is to click More, Copy to My Routes. When I do this, this will sort of take my own unique copy of this route and add it to my route library so I can make changes and edits to it, combine it with other routes, all of that sort of stuff. So I won't go back through the process for combining routes back together. In the recording, you should be able to reference those steps, but if you have routes that someone else made, you're gonna wanna pin them to your account so you can find them later on. And if you plan on like combining together, you're gonna wanna copy those routes to your account so they appear when you hit that import tool to pull them into the route planner. Okay, let's see, we got another question. Can you show when you are doing multiple route planning for gravel as a preference over paved sections? Absolutely. So that's a great question first off, and there's a couple of different tools that might be really useful here. Let me head back to my route planner. I'll start new route. So the first thing that I want to call out is we have this wonderful advanced layer for unpaved cycling. When I turn this on, anywhere that is unpaved and allows cycling will highlight in this sort of beige color so I can see it a little bit more clearly, right? So it's really nice, like we do visually display surface types when you've actually gone through and created a route. Let me show you. So like down below here, you can see that my elevation profile, this is also visible on the route line itself. It goes from this solid red color to this like striped white and red segment. Solid red indicates that it is a paved segment. Segmented white and red, that striped segment is indicating that it is an unpaved segment. On the left-hand side of my route planner here, you can see that I can see the percentage breakdown of my route by surface type. So it's 50% paved, 55% paved, 45% unpaved. And you can also see a legend just reminding you of what the markings on the screen actually mean. And yeah, like it's nice to see the surface type breakdown once you've created a route, but it's even nicer to see it before you've created a route. That way you can stick to or avoid the unpaved stuff accordingly. And there is one additional feature that I think would be really useful in this regard. So if you look on the right-hand side of my screen, you'll see, I have routing mode, I have cycling selected, but then underneath that, I have this any surface option selected. One really useful thing to know about Ride with GPS is, our default route planning algorithm, when you create a route in our route planner, the route planner is looking for like a few main bits of information. Two things specifically. It's looking for bicycle infrastructure. So if while you're plotting, if there's a bike path, a bike trail, nationally recognized cycling network, you're going to see the route planner snap to those roads over the other ones in the area. The other thing it's looking for is where do people ride their bikes most frequently? And the more bicycle traffic a certain road or trail gets, the more likely it is that the route planner is going to snap to those roads. With that in mind, though, you can actually further refine your routing algorithm by your desired surface type. So you'll see on the right-hand side, any surface is selected. And in my opinion, I think that's the best like default routing algorithm to have on, especially if you're plotting through urban areas or doing like particularly long tours. It's still going to prioritize, bike infrastructure, where people ride most often, and it's sort of gonna look mostly for paved stuff, but it can put you on unpaved things from time to time. If you hit this drop-down menu, you can see that there's some preferential surface type routing options. If I hit paved, now as I create my route, as I continue to click along, the route planner is still going to look for areas where cyclists are allowed, but it's going to most heavily prioritize paved roads as I'm plotting. So this is like a great way to sort of prioritize the fastest paved route in the direction that you're planning. If I select unpaved, which for me personally is what I have turned on most of the time, now the route planner is still going to look for, it's going to follow the rules of the road for cycling, but it's going to seek out unpaved roads over everything else in the area. The only time it's going to stick you on something paved is if there's really not another option. So if you're looking to sort of fine tune how your route planner works by your desired surface type, this is a really awesome option for you to do. All right. So it looks like that's it for the Q&A portion here. I don't have anything new coming in. I just wanted to quickly, let me switch to my closing scene here so you can see the info at, which is our support email address and our little Calendly link. But before I leave everybody, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate everybody's time for coming in here. Sorry, there is one more question coming in. Let me head back to my main screen here. Okay. Oh, waypoints. So I didn't have a chance to really dive into this too much, but let's talk about waypoints, which some of you may or may not have heard of before. We'll also talk about points of interest because that's an important part of this. So there's a couple of different ways that you can visually call out items along your route line or on the map itself. One of the ways to do this with a premium subscription is by using points of interest. One really cool thing that before I show you points of interest that I'm going to mention is in this layers drop-down menu, we have this highlights option. If I turn this on, you can see community added points of interest. So like the good people of Portland have been painstakingly adding points of interest to the map as a base map, so you can see cool things that the locals are actually calling out during their own route planning. Things like restrooms, bike shops, trail systems, viewpoints, coffee shops, breweries. Of course, it's Portland. There's a ton of coffee shops and breweries being called out all over the place. And then I can opt to include some of this in my own route planning. For example, let's say that I'm interested in this Clinton Street coffee option. If I zoom in closely and click, let's see this here. I'll zoom in a little bit closer. Here we go. If I click this, I can see a little bit of information that's been added. It's a trendy corner coffee shop. It is a very trendy corner coffee shop, but one of the options here is I can include it in my route. Okay, so I can include it at mile 2.7, which I'll select. When I do this, the route now actually diverts course and takes me to that specific point of interest. I'll show you how to add points of interest, but one thing I want to say is when a point of interest is added to the route line, it becomes a waypoint. And normally when you add point of interest, I'll show this to you before I give you the explanation for waypoints. This will help make more sense here. So I had that coffee shop called out along my route line, and we call it a waypoint, but really all that is a point of interest added to the route line. Now let's say that I want to actually call out a potential water source over here. I don't actually want to make my route go to that specific spot, but I want to call it out on the map itself. If I hit custom POI, click on the map where I want it added. you get this little point of interest save form, which will always default to this information icon. But if I hit the drop-down menu, there's a whole bunch of different things I can choose from. So I'll choose a water icon. It's going to require that you give it a title. I'll say potential water to water stop. I can add a description, link to a website, add photos if I want to do that. Once I hit save, that point of interest is now officially added to my map. So this is sort of what makes explaining waypoints work a little bit better. When I add a point of interest icon to the map itself, it's just a visual representation on the map. During navigation, I would see that point of interest, and in the moment, I could decide if I wanted to actually divert course and head to it or not. So because it's just on the map, it's not called out in the cue sheet, it's not verbally announced, it's just a handy visual representation of whatever it is that I'm calling out. Now a waypoint, which again is a point of interest added to the actual route line, not only does it appear on the route line as a visual reference, it appears in the elevation profile and it appears in the cue sheet. And because it appears in the cue sheet, that means that it will be visually displayed and verbally announced during navigation within the Ride with GPS app. So if I want to make sure that there is something really important along the way that people do not miss as they're actually riding along, point of interest is an absolutely wonderful way to make that happen. One last thing about waypoints. So normally point of interest don't necessarily sync over to external GPS devices, but if you have waypoints, which again, point of interest added to the route line, when you sync that route to your GPS device like a Garmin or a Wahoo, those waypoints will actually be included and visible on the map itself, which is really, really nice. There are some like fine-tuned little details that you need to know about that, but generally that's how this works. Waypoints are one of my favorite recent addition of features. I use them all the time when creating routes of my own. Alrighty. Any other questions, Kevin, before I move on? All right. So let's head back to that closing scene. Put that back up there. I'll say it again. Thank you all for taking the time to attend today. The recording should be up on YouTube within the next day or so. Yeah, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. We'd love to hear from you. We definitely enjoy working with users. So yeah, thanks again for attending and happy riding.